I've been showing you how to write a program from scratch. We started with just the hello world and we built this up to about 30 something lines of code that is a pretty decent Python program that most other Python programmers would look at and be able to understand immediately, or somebody using the program would be able to figure out very quickly how to use it. And I think that it's a lot of work. It's taken us quite a while to get to this point. And I actually never start writing a program from scratch. I wrote a Python program to help me write new Python programs. And I've included that in the repository. And I suggest you use it just to create your own programs that have this basic structure. They will create a new file with whatever you give it. It will have the shebang line like this. It will stub out a doc string for the program. It will import argparse. It will create a getargs program, a function for you with lots of examples of how to add arguments to your program. It will create the main, and it will have this bit here, this little couplet to launch the main. And so that's available to you in the bin directory, and I'm going to show you how to use that to write this hello program a little more quickly than we did. So we currently have this hello right here, and I'm going to move this hello to hello.orig. And to show you how to use this, I'm going to go up one directory. So I'm in the main directory here of the Tiny Pythons project, and there's a bin directory here, and I can ls the bin directory, and I see here's my program called new.py, and you're welcome to inspect this program and to modify it and do whatever you'd like with it. I'm going to show you how to use this to create our hello program. So I'm going to run bin new.py, and I'm going to say o1 hello.py. So I'm telling it, I'm saying use this program new.py and create the program hello.py in the directory o1 hello. Remember, the hello.py needs to exist in that directory because that's where the test is for it. So I do that, and it ran. It says it's done. There's a new script here, and actually this just popped up here in my editor. This is the program that it just created. So you see here it has the shebang. It has a pretty nice little doc string for the program. It has imported a few modules that we will use. Here's a getargs here for getting the command line arguments. It shows me here how to create a positional argument. This is an option for a string. Here it's just called -arg, --arg. It's a string argument. Here is showing you how to create an integer argument. So by default, everything coming from the command line is going to be a string. But if we want that to be turned into something that's an integer by argparse, then we tell it that the type is going to be an int. And here I'm calling the name of the flag, the name of the option -i or --int. That's not what makes it an int. It's this here, this type, that will make it be an int. You see here it shows you how to set default values. Like here I'm setting the empty string as the default value for this argument. But for this integer argument, maybe I want the default value to be 0, or maybe I want it to be 10, whatever is appropriate for your program you're writing. Later exercises, we're going to understand what this means to have a readable file as an input to your program. This is an extremely handy option that we'll understand a little bit later. And we're also going to talk about how to create flags. This is a kind of flag that will be, if the user runs the program with --on, then there will be something called on that will be set to true if it's been provided. If it's not provided, then the default will be for it to be false. And so here it returns the result of parsing the arguments. So this is the first thing that you get out of using new.py, is just a bunch of examples of showing you how to create some different arguments. And then we have the main, and here I'm showing you how to unpack, how to call getargs, and how to get each one of those values. So there's a string argument, an int argument, file argument. You can unpack those using the long names. So here positional is just what this was called right here, positional. And so I can get these out, and then I'm showing you here how I can print them out. So for here, the idea here is that we're writing our hello program using this as the stub. So our program needs to have a name, a dash dash n dash dash name, which is going to be the name to greet. It's a string. We can change the metavar to name. That's a little more descriptive. And the default is going to be world. That's exactly what we had before, but just we have a few more, couple more options here for argparse. Now we can just get rid of all the other arguments. We don't need those. So this looks pretty much exactly like what we had before for get args. And then down here, we want to change all of this. We want to be able to say print hello plus, and I can say args.name here, plus exclamation point. Let's go into our directory and let's see if that works. Make test. Yes, that program is essentially identical to what we wrote before, but we just got there a lot faster. Here we can change the description of this to say hello. And if we run our program, hello.py, with no arguments, it says hello world. If we run it with universe, it will say hello universe. Oh, see, it's not a positional argument, it's a dash name. So I provided the wrong kind of argument, so we got a usage statement. If I say dash in universe, it greets the universe. If I say dash h, it creates a help message. And the other thing here is that you notice now when I run with dash h, it says name to greet and it says default world. And that's because I like to use this formatter class of argument defaults help formatter. So it will show me the defaults for the arguments on the command line. I just think that's a really useful option. So I always have argparse do that. As far as style, I always like to define getArgs as the first function in my program so that when I'm reading it, which is what I do most of the time, I can immediately see what are the inputs to my program. And if we go back and look at our string diagram, it's pretty much the same. I like to be able to see this kind of a thing when I'm running my program. So that is how to use new.py to create a new program without having to write it from scratch. I never recommend that you write a program from scratch. I think that's too much. It's easy enough to copy another program, but then you're copying all of the other things that you did in that program, and I think that this is an easier way to kind of start from scratch. If you don't want to run the new.py program, or you for some reason have some sort of a problem with that, in the template directory, if we ls the template, there is a template.py. And if we open that, let's see, if we open the template and we look at that, it is just this, basically the same output. And I can just copy this program if I wanted. So for instance, I could copy template to o1 foo.py. And now in my o1 hello directory, I have a foo.py, and I can edit this. So whatever way works for you, if you want to copy the template or if you want to run new.py, the benefit to running the new.py is that it, for instance, will put in the date for you, and it can be customized to put in your name and email. Of course, you could also just modify the template.py to be exactly the way you want it to be, and then copy that. So whatever way works for you to start your programs. Every program in the book will expect you to use argparse. Every program must respond to -h and -help with usage, and so this is just a way to get you going faster than writing from scratch. One thing I would say that is if you want to create in your home directory a .new.py file, then you can put in the name and the email address that you would like to show up in the program. It's a way of customizing the program. So in this series of videos, we've covered the fact that a Python program is just plain text, lives in a file, and we need to tell Python 3 to interpret and execute that program. And we can embed this as the shebang line in the program so that the operating system can do that for us. We've learned how to use the argparse module to parse and to document the arguments to our program. We learned how to use PyTest to run the existing test.py programs that I've made for you. We also talked about how to use maketest to execute PyTest for you. We've seen how we can run the tests after any significant change to our program. We keep going back and making sure that our program still does what it should do. I've showed you how to use formatting tools. In VS Code, I'm using YAPF to format my programs. You're welcome to use black or whatever other tool you like. We've also talked about how to use code linters like PyLint and Flake8, and we've also seen how VS Code will give us suggestions here as another way to lint our programs. And then finally, we've talked about how to use the new.py program to essentially encapsulate so much of what we've seen up above into one quick and easy way to start your new programs. So going forward, I'll always recommend you use new.py, and we'll just start from that as a baseline.